Hey guys, Aaron Miles here with the new Black Return of the Dragon Emperor spoilers. We're going to be going over Black Red and Black White at the same time. So we're going to get right into it with the Gil Lapis ruler. We saw the J ruler side earlier, now we finally get the ruler side. Judgments for 8, 1 less for each card in your opponent's removed area. Should be pretty easy to judgment him for 2. And then for 0 mana, only on your turn and only once per turn, you can have one of your opponent's non-magic stones get exiled instead of going to the graveyard, which is actually really mediocre, because it seems like a lot of this archetype's removal removes things from game anyway, so it's really just things that you're, like, thundering, you're going to be able to exile instead of sending to the graveyard. But the fact that it's only on your turn is actually really, really bad, because things like Featsing send Ruck Eggs and Alice's Little Scouts and all this stuff that have graveyard triggers to the graveyard on their turn, and you're really just going to be missing out on all of that. I feel like as we get more into this archetype, you're going to see this is probably a deck you really want to play Black, Red, White, so that you have access to Barrier Seal. But being locked into 3 colors from the get-go, and one of them being like Splash White to get the Barrier Seal, it seems a little bad, but maybe we'll get something to compensate for it later on in the Black, Red spoilers. But then we get into the J-Ruler side, which now we have to look at again, because previously we didn't really understand it, what it was doing for the archetype. So the 0, put a removed card on the bottom of your opponent's deck and gain a symbol skill. This is going to be really good once Regalia rotate out, and there aren't really any swiftness, any J-Rollers that have swiftness aside from, the only one I can think of are Lumia and Sylvia at the moment. So once everything rotates, I believe Lumia is going to be the only one currently in Lapis Cluster that has it, so he has it as well. He can't gain Imperishable, which is a little rough, but whatever. That'd be pretty broken. My problem with this card is that, like, it's too good. It does everything that you want the archetype to be doing. The problem is that it's all on the same card, so that you really can't get too much value out of it. Plus, it's your J-Ruler, so this thing has a big target on its back from the get-go, because it gives you the ability to play a card from your opponent's exile once per turn, which is really what I think the archetype wants to be doing. So the fact that it's on your J-Ruler kinda sucks, because once he's dead, he's dead. He can't gain Imperishable outside of, Regalia. But he's got a big target on his back already, and if he's doing the thing that you want your archetype to be doing, that's a really bad place for it. I want more cards that do what that does. I want more cards that let me play cards from my opponent's exile. And then put 2 cards on the bottom, pay 2 mana, kill a guy. That makes him basically unblockable, which is, once again, what I want on another card. I want that on a Resonator. I don't want all of my good abilities jam-packed onto my J-Ruler when Black Moonbeam exists. But he's extremely powerful for what the archetype wants to be doing. The problem is he's just also very vulnerable. Especially since if you are forced to play Black, Red, White, then you don't have Wind Secluded Refuge, and all of a sudden you have to play Black, Red, White, Green, just so that you can play Barrier Seal and Wind Secluded Refuge to make up for the weaknesses of the archetype. So let's look at the cards that go into the archetype with him. The database is being really slow because of the new website, I would presume, so I'm using the new website. So Black Hole, the Spirit World. Whenever a Resonator is put into a graveyard from your field, your opponent banishes a Resonator. This card's a little weird to me. It seems like the Black-Red deck doesn't really care about being super Resonator heavy. So making your opponent banish Resonators when you do that is a little weird. I would have almost preferred that it was just anytime a creature would go to the graveyard, exile it, but then it's just a worse Barrier Seal. And it costs 4 mana. I really don't want to pay 4 mana for an addition, especially one that doesn't get any immediate value. I think with the new Black-White spoiler we saw as well, I think addition removal is going to be making its way back into main decks. Not a big thing for people to do, and 4 mana is a lot for any addition. This card's good. It's a 6/5. It does unfortunately die to every removal spell. Thunder, Anomaly, those kinds of things. But whenever it deals damage to an opponent, never mind. I thought it was whenever it attacked. So whenever it deals damage to an opponent, they exile the top card of their deck. It does have first strike, so the 500 defense, at least it trades with all the 6/6 2-drops. But I want this card to do that on attack. I want it, because I'm not getting any value out of it instantly. It's vulnerable to removal. I don't want to have to hit my opponent for it to get any kind of momentum going for the game. I don't think this card's that great. Let's see, Searing Dead. So when this card enters your field, you may put a card from your opponent's exile to the bottom of their deck, and then it deals 400 damage to your opponent. This card's bad. Unless there's... So the problem that I'm starting to see with the red-black archetype is that there's not a whole lot of ways to remove your opponent's cards, and then you're putting your opponent's cards back in their deck. Why do I want to do that? There's got to be something that, like, is giving me value for giving my opponent their resources back. Otherwise, this archetype's going to fall flat on its face. But this card, it's a vanilla, basically. 400 damage to your opponent is not a lot, especially for giving them back resources, making your Gil Lapis cost more if you haven't flipped yet, taking away things that your Gil Lapis can play from their exile. So far, I haven't found anything that I want to be putting things back with more than I do with Gil Lapis. And this is just exile target Resonator, which is good. It's a 3-mana kill spell, and it exiles it instead of sending it to grave. This is a solid card. It'll be better once Levitine and all that rotates out. Was all the black-red cards? I feel like there was another black-red Resonator that's just not on here for some reason. Yeah, she was like a 3 or 4 drop or something. Oh, there's a second page. There we go. So, Valentina. Okay, so anything that she deals damage to is going to be removed from the game instead. Pretty good. That's something that I want to be seeing. I want blockers to be removed if they're blocking her. And she's a 12 Apostle because she's Valentina. Valentina is one of the 12 Apostles. Now there's like 15 of them, but like 4 of them are Valentina. And when she enters her field, you get to... is it exile? Yeah, remove target Resonator your opponent controls with 2 cost or less from the game. Kinda relevant against some decks. The problem is that the scariest 2-drop at the moment seems to be Abdul, and this doesn't hit Abdul because it's an enter trigger. But obviously it's a very good ability. This card's only like 100 off of what I care about my 4-drops being, so far those 2 abilities make her pretty good, pretty fine for the 9/9 stats. And then you put 0 mana, put target Magic Stone on the bottom, and she gains Swiftness or Precision, which is what I was talking about with Gil Lapis. I want cards that can, utilize my opponent's exile to gain symbol skills. Like, she's really good as like a 9/9 4-drop Swiftness, kill a guy, exile anything that battles with her. And then you can put 3 Magic Stones back, and if you do, or 3 non-Magic Stones back from your opponent's exile to the bottom of their deck, and then she gets +5/+5. So she doesn't really die to removal either. The problem is that she really wants a lot of cards in exile to be able to do that, and I'm just not sure how fast the Gil Lapis deck is going to be able to accelerate your opponent's exile. But if there is something else that comes out in the spoilers, I could see this card being really strong. I could even see it being like a pretty good card in like a 12 Apostle deck. So I do like Valentina. I just think we need to see more from the archetype first. And then we go to Black-White. Black-White's a little awkward to do spoilers for because we didn't see the Ruler or the Stone. So we have Alice's World of Madness. Obviously this card's pretty good. So this kind of sets the tone for the Black-White archetype, and this is something I kind of wanted to get into. When I played Yu-Gi-Oh, we didn't really have what we called control decks. We called them anti-meta. And meta in that case doesn't really refer to what the actual meta is. It refers to big swarm decks that are graveyard reliant, things like Featsing, things like Fox. So I think Black-White is looking like the first anti-meta deck we're going to get in Force of Will. It's kind of a control deck, but it folds to other control decks. It's really only good against swarm graveyard heavy decks, which Control can have some problems with those decks, I'm not going to lie. So this is kind of like the middle ground. This is going to pretty much absolutely destroy things like Fox and Featsing, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get destroyed by things like Val 3, Stealth decks, Mikage, all that kind of stuff, Dark Alice, all that. But I do think Alice's World of Madness is going to see some kind of play, at least in sideboards. Blackheart Alice, she's got Precision in Flying, she's at 800, 1000. You care more about... So when we go for vanilla standards, like I say a 4-drop is 1,000, you really care more about meaning that defense mark than that attack mark, because you really care more about not dying to removal. So this card still dies to double anomaly, but whatever. It's a single anomaly cast twice, but whatever. When she enters the field, she gets the Schrodinger, which is really what you care about, and then you can banish a non-token to destroy target non-Magic Stone, non-J-Roller card. Don't know how often that effect's going to come up. I could see like a black-blue-white deck that's playing like the token generators and then really revolving around Blackheart Alice and the Schrodinger cat. But I think she's pretty good. we should show you Schrodinger so that you really know what you're dealing with here. So whenever a Resonator is put into the graveyard from your opponent's field, you remove that, you remove that card from the game, and then you put a 5/5 Darkness Shadow Resonator into your field, and then when Schrodinger dies, all of your Shadow Resonator tokens die. Oh, that's right. Alice can't sack tokens, so the red-blue, or the white-blue-black thing is actually a little less relevant, because I was thinking of spamming tokens for her ability, completely forgetting that you can't sack tokens. But this card, a lot of people are talking about this card, and this more goes into what I was talking about this deck being anti-meta rather than a control deck, where this card's really bad against control. It's really only good against, the swarm-heavy graveyard-reliant decks. So once it just continues to push that archetype of I'm going to beat Fox and Featsing and I'm going to fold to control, which is a really bad place to be in the meta because I feel like you can just build control to beat Fox and Featsing and then fold to control. It's called main deck 4 Unseen Pressure. So I'm not super hype about the black-white cards so far. Is there anything else up here I missed when I was going past to get to Schrodinger? It doesn't look like it. So then Schrodinger's Observation. This is essentially Steam Explosion is what a lot of people have been saying, because it is a burn spell, it's a big finisher, or you can just kill a Resonator with it. But killing a Resonator is a little like It's not awful, because you are paying like 1 more mana than their card, and than they did if we're talking about vanilla standards. The only problem there being like 2 drops or 6/6s. So like 3 mana you kill a 1 drop, 4 mana you kill a 2 drop, but 4 mana you also kill a 3 drop, and then 5 mana you kill a 4 drop, so on and so forth. I don't like this card a whole lot. I don't know how much black-white's going to need that big finishing burn spell, and how quickly they're going to be able to accelerate their mana before this just gets lost to things like Darkstorm. But I definitely don't think it's a bad card. I think it's cool that it exists. I just don't know if it's going to see play in like black-white anti-meta decks. I think that's all for this page. And then the Dark March Hare. I don't like this card. I don't think this card's good. It's a sorcery speed +1/+1 to my board, and then -1/-1 to my opponent's board. If you call a stone after you play him, then it's a +2/+2 to your board, and a -2/-2 to your opponent's board. But I don't think you're really going to be hurting to wipe out your opponent's board with this kind of deck. I think you're going to already be playing the Alice's World of Madness, and then you're going to, be playing like single target removal to get the value off of Schrodinger. So, not a huge fan of this card. And then the Dark Sleeping Dormouse. I don't think this card's good at all. Like, you can, before combat, decide if you want to make him an 8/1 or a 1/8. Totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. And that's all for the spoilers for this week. I'll be back on Friday, I believe, with the next round of spoilers, and see you guys then.